Little quote, the consequence that's valuable is the one your dog decides is valuable, not you. That's big. That's big.
One.
I use the example all the time. Do you remember Jack and Oreo from Chicago?
Yeah. Yeah.
Pit bull, little Boston Terrier, little thing.
Mm-hmm.
So Oreo, little Boston Terrier. This is to this point, right? Oreo, I don't remember if it was the owner or the trainer or what, but they'd done some training with this dog, and they really wanted to use the vibrate function on the e-collar, right?
Okay.
Vibrate function on the e-collar. They used it all the time. Because in everybody's head, vibrate. It's nothing. It's just a vibration.
Yeah.
Why would the dog ever be averse or scared of that? And I want to use that over the stimulation. Whatever. They fucking traumatized this dog with the vibrate function on that e-collar. For whatever reason, the dog decided the vibrate was valuable.
Yeah.
The dog decided that was extremely aversive, right? When in actuality, when we started switching to just using the stim for the corrections with it, we saw him respond so much less dramatically to it because we were able to be more adjustable with it. It was something that he understood better. Same with a pet corrector, right? A lot of people compressed air. Can we just use that? That sounds nice, right? I've seen some dogs that the pet corrector is literally the end of the world to them.
Yeah.
You know? And, we got to look at what does the dog actually care about, not what we think is valuable. You know, there are some dogs that are terrified of vacuum cleaners. And I kind of asked the owner, I was like, okay, cool. That dog that's traumatized of the vacuum cleaner, do you think that they would rather sit in a room with that vacuum cleaner on for 10 minutes or sit there and get corrected on a high level with an e-collar for like 10 minutes? And honestly, probably most of them would be much less averse by the e-collar than the vacuum cleaner. You know, fear is a powerful thing, especially irrational fears with dogs. You know.
Yeah, I mean,
you say something. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that it ties exactly to what we were talking about with Tom and Kay. Like your dog figures out what is motivating. You know, like
reinforcement or either way,
either
positive
way
or negative.
Yeah. Like your dog is a being of its own. Yeah. And just like you, what's motivating to you?
I was talking about it yesterday. The same client I was talking to about the long-term maintenance of their dog, the wife is really into like backpacking, right?
Oh, okay.
And she backpacks in Southern Ohio all the time. We were talking about it. And she was like, she's like, Southern Ohio is weird. She's like, it's muggy. It gets humid. She's like, there's a lot of snakes. And I was just like, snakes?
Yeah.
You said snakes? And literally, she started talking about how, like, when she would go backpacking out there at night, they had to be careful and make sure, like, their tent was fully zipped up because when it got cold, the snakes would try to crawl into the tent. Dude, I'm literally right now getting goosebumps even just saying it again. Yeah. She was telling me that story, and I didn't even want to hear it anymore. Like, I was getting so averse by her talking about that and even envisioning it in my head because I perceive that as extremely aversive. Right?
Not a snake guy, huh?
No. Get those snakes the fuck out of here. I will take any ginormous dog trying to maul my face off over a snake crawling into my tent any day.
Oh, man.
And I'm sure there's people out there that think the same. So again, like you were saying, everybody's a being. Everybody decides what is valuable.
Yep.
Keep that in mind. All right, the $5 speeding ticket. Ooh. How much impact would a $5 speeding ticket have on you? Probably not much. Would it change your love of speed? The need to get across town just a shade faster because you're late? Your impatient nature? Nah, $5 is just a nice latte. That's funny. If the consequence for speeding is so tiny, speeding looks awfully good, whatever the reason. Now let's have some fun. Imagine the standard speeding ticket was $5,000. No matter what the reason or how little you happen to be creeping over the limit, how might that affect your driving habits? I'd guess a whole lot. Even if you really like the adrenaline rush of a little heavy footing, even if you were late for a really important appointment, even if you were a really impatient type, I'd bet you'd make some very different decisions.
I mean, interesting scenario, but I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
Everybody would be on time.
It's true. I think, or everybody would just be late.
Or everyone would be late, yes.
No, I think it's an interesting point. You know, I find people, it's a much more dangerous trap to fall into the trap of underwhelming your dog with your corrections than overwhelming your dog with your corrections. I think the fallout for underwhelming them is potentially more than overwhelming them, because here's the thing. If you are correcting your dog at low levels on the e-collar, or levels you perceive as motivating but really aren't, and you nag your dog, you start to kind of habituate them to that sensation over time, and they blow it off, and you wind up needing much higher levels later on. Where if you just start out at those high corrections, like we talked about in the first scenario with the dogs, of the dramatic dogs, and just kind of going right up into it at the higher levels, I think a lot of times you get a much quicker response if you're consistent about things. Now, you run the risk, obviously, of saying, okay, cool, if we're going to jump right into $1 million speeding ticket here, you know, the fallouts of if that happens one time, you know, are much higher, obviously, you know. You're going to care more about it, but you hit a point where you start completely shutting a person or a dog down in that point. But you have to figure out how to find that sweet spot when you're giving corrections for things, of being motivating enough, erring on the side of being a little more motivating than you need to, but not having it be just completely unfair as well.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You need it to be valuable, but not too valuable, but not valueless.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's a hard one, you know, and you know, that's what I always say, you know, start high, right? And then little by little, you could back off as you need to, right? Or constantly make adjustments based on the dog. But if you're noticing, you know, and this is the benefit of isolating things, right? If we're isolating working a downstare, isolating jumping on people, you're going to see very quickly if what you're doing is working, right?
Yeah.
Have you corrected 50 times for the same thing over and over again? Then you could clearly tell yourself, this isn't working and I'm not being motivating enough.
Yeah.
Right? Are you correcting once or twice and it's going away completely? Perfect. Then you're probably in the right range. So you got to make those adjustments. All right. When consequences become significant, behavior changes for all of us. So same reasons and attractions, but totally different reactions. What changed? Just the momentary consequence and the awareness of what the consequence might mean to you. $5,000 is a lot of dough. In Dogland, I see the $5 speeding ticket issued, a bunch. And guess what goes along with that? Yep, not much. Owners might try to override chasing a squirrel with a stern yell, jumping by ignoring, pulling by standing still, or counter-surfing by grabbing the dog's collar, having a firm conversation about the dangers involved with scarfing unauthorized goodies. They're unaware that you're underwhelming the dog. The rewards simply outweigh the consequences, and when that's the case, the rewards are most valuable. According to your dog, not you. Get picked every time. Doing the wrong thing is supposed to be uncomfortable. The whole point of speeding ticket is the discomfort. The discomfort or awareness of its possibility is what changes our behavior. And it's the same for our dogs. Consequences, both positive and negative, drive all our behavior. If they're meaningless, you can count on whatever behavior you're trying to stop to continue. So continuation of that, one big thing he pointed out here is, again, competing motivators, right? So keep in mind with your consequence as well, the consequence needs to match the motivation of whatever the dog is doing. How much does your dog like to chase squirrels? How much does your dog like to jump on people? How much does your dog like to pull on a leash? How much does your dog like to counter surf and grab good, delicious things off of the counter? And depending on how motivated your dog is by those individual things, you have to increase or decrease that consequence as needed, right?